No, this is not a prison yard. This is, in fact, my garden. I have had some really big ideas about how I want to transform this space, but we are midway through our second summer here and it still looks like a really sad concrete box. And that is because I don't have the time or the energy or frankly the money to build out my dream garden, especially when we still have so much to do inside. But it would be really nice to be able to actually use this space this year. So I'm going to try and leave my perfectionist tendencies at the back door, and we are going to do an affordable, speedy, but impactful transformation. Let's go. This is what we're working with. Out the back door there is a set of steps that lead up to this open area, which currently has a table with a couple chairs, a cold plunge barrel, a compost bin and some storage. The first job was to prepare the walls as much as possible for painting. They're not in great shape, but they're also not worth properly rebuilding or reskimming at the moment, so I used some mortar to cover up the exposed bricks and fading render, and some masonry repair filler on all the cracks. I primed all the walls with a thick layer of Zinsser peel stop to give my paint the best chances of adhering, and then sprayed the bottom half and down the stairs with this incredible aubergine colour. Okay, I have some explaining to do because this is pretty bold. It's actually reading kind of reddy brown today, but it really does feel purple in real life. So the vibe I'm going for here is bougie rooftop bar. I want a really moody, cozy feeling, but also this is a north-facing garden, and especially in winter, it just doesn't get much light. So my solution is to do a two-tone wall. This dark, rich color on the bottom will just feel like a hug, especially when you're sitting down. But on the top, I'm going to go for a light neutral, and that will keep the space feeling fresh, but it will also reflect as much light as possible back on the house. Now we've done 2 coats of the aubergine, I'm going to get my level and some painter's tape and mask out the bottom half of the wall. The classic trick to get a crisp line between 2 colors is to paint over your masking tape with the background color. But given how textured this wall is, I knew that wouldn't work. I would definitely get a lot of bleed anyway. I thought I could really carefully paint up to the line, but I needed a very loaded paintbrush to get into all the nooks and crannies, and then it was just so hard to control the edge. Okay, I don't think this is working. I'm just gonna spray it all and touch up whatever needs touching up later.
I would like to step in here and apologise for my shorts being so tucked up into my butt crack in these clips. But I forgive myself for the sartorial mishaps because I find paint spraying so stressful. I'm usually doing it in a big panic because if you pause too long, the nozzle clogs and it's a whole palaver. Which is why when I got around to this side and my masking refused to stick to the wall, I just grabbed the nearest bit of cardboard and made as straight of a line as I could. Then after 2 coats of stir about, I removed all the masking and took great satisfaction in perfecting the edge between the 2 colours and also where the wall met the stairs.
Excuse me, we are, what, like 3 minutes into this video and it already looks like this? Wow, it is feeling very contrasted to me at the moment. But hopefully the more we introduce to the space, it'll kind of soften that divide. Next up, we have to talk about flooring. I think a limestone slab would look really nice here, or maybe like a herringbone paved terracotta moment. But we're not doing that. We are doing artificial grass.
People love to hate on artificial grass, and I get it. I would much rather have a proper live lawn if that was possible, but it's not on this concrete slab, and nor would I want to have one in a garden this small. I priced up paving the space and it would have been 5 times the cost of this artificial grass, and also a lot of back-breaking labour. So this solution is cost effective, it doesn't take much energy from me to put it down, it feels nice on the feet, it helps create the illusion of nature in this urban environment, and it also nicely complements the aubergine walls.
Okay, before unrolling the rest of the grass and trimming it, I am going to bring in some furniture. These sectional pieces are from IKEA. You can configure them however you want, and then you can buy separate backrests. But the backrests have been out of stock in the UK for months and months, so we're gonna live without backrests for now. But if you can imagine it, this is like the sofa conversation area. We're gonna have a coffee table, and then I have bought 2 more chairs that I'm gonna go grab and assemble now. Actually, before I do that, I need to roll out the rest of this grass and move the rest of the stuff onto it. We have some chairs. I really like the rope detail on the back of these chairs, especially because when you come up the stairs, that will be the first thing you see. And it also adds that kind of natural texture to the space, which is definitely needed. We are gonna get into making some cushions for the sofa in a little bit. But firstly, my mum is here this week and she has brought me some plants and some plant pots. So we're gonna take a little trip to the garden centre, and it'll be nice to get some actual nature up in here.
sort of aubergine on that front on the green, nice and cool.
Yeah, it looks really nice. Next up, we got to make these little units look like an actual sofa. So IKEA does sell cushions for these and ones for the back piece, but they're all kind of plain, and honestly, they're quite cheap individually, but when you're buying this many, it adds up. And I think I can do it for a similar-ish price and have it be much more custom. So I have bought some reticulated foam. These are a specialist foam product that water can run right through, so it's perfect for outdoor cushions. I decided to do 2 long rectangles instead of individual squares because I think it looks just like a lot more classy and bespoke, but then both being 3 units wide means that I have the flexibility to rearrange them into 2 sofas in the future. For the backrests, I want to do something quite different because these are quite boxy and like everything in this area so far is quite like sharp lines. I want to make really puffy cushions for the back. So I bought a load of polyester fiber fill to make my own custom sizes. And I think I bought around 20 meters of fabric. So let's go set up the sewing station and we will start by making covers for these seats. All right. I am ready to start the cushion marathon. By the way, we got a new dining table. I've spoken about this before, that I wanted a big round table here with chunky turned legs, and I found one on Marketplace. It definitely needs a refinish, but it is really beautiful and I love it. I feel like sewing on a round table is going to be a bit more annoying, but it does have a larger surface area, so maybe that'll balance out. I'm going to make the seat covers and the back cushions out of this fabric. It is a navy, and we don't have any navy in the scheme yet, but navy is a neutral. Just like how navy is a neutral in fashion, navy is a neutral in interiors, or exteriors, I guess. I wanted something dark so it didn't stand out against the purple backdrop, but I also didn't really want it to like pull focus, and a desaturated dark navy felt like the right call. Unlike my last video where we made piped box cushions, I'm going to make these as simple and easy as possible. And that starts by cutting 2 big rectangles that will cover both sheets of foam. We started sewing and then I had to go on a full-on diversion, opening up my sewing machine to get my foot to sit at the right height, because I lifted it for piping in my last video and then it just wasn't holding down the fabric, but that's resolved now. Cutting perfect big rectangles is like so much harder than I remember it being, but I got there eventually. The strategy was to cut them extra big and then I could fold them to make sure that they were square before cutting them to perfect size. So now I have 2 very big rectangles and they're already folded in half lengthways, and I'm going to run a really loose stitch down this edge. This is where the zip's going to be, so I'm doing it 20 millimeters in instead of my usual 10 millimeters. And then I realised that because it's a tube, I won't be able to sew the zip in while both sides are attached. So I pressed down the seam, unpicked it, then I zigzagged around the whole piece to stop the fraying I was starting to see, and then I could sew the zip onto each side. So now we basically have a big tube with the zip. Is this zip perfect? No. Is it fine? Yes, and we can move on. So I want to flip this inside out and then I'm going to sew along this line, but I'm going to make sure that the zip is at one total end of it. The easiest way to do this is me to sew from the zip down, isn't it? Smarter, not harder, folks. Why am I trying to line up the bottom where I can just start at the zip? Okay, here comes the bit where we make it 3D, and I need to do some mental maths to figure out how this works. I think I got it. The cover is currently a flat rectangle, but we can make it into a box by popping out each corner and sewing a line at a 45-degree angle, which is perpendicular to the seam. The length of this stitch line should match the depth of the cushion, so I'm using some Pythagoras theorem to mark where the line should touch each side, which ensures that the corner will be square and will pop out to the right depth. I want to go over that corner a lot because that's going to be the actual corner of the cushion. Okay, to prove to myself that I've done this right, let's pop it round and double check. Looks good to me. Now we've just got to go through that process for all 4 corners, and I've got to add the zip to the other piece and do all of this jazz as well. This has proven to be more tedious, more boring, and also more frustrating than I expected it to be. It's not hard, it's just like tedious. So I'm going to put in some headphones, lock in with a podcast. Hopefully nothing will have gone wrong, and I will get Bee's help to put the foam in the cushion covers, and I will catch up with you hopefully tomorrow when that is all done. These seat cushions came out looking excellent. I hope now it's more obvious how that corner construction works. So we just have one seam going down each of the short sides, and that 45-degree thing is what I did in the corners. I found this actually quite an easy way to do box cushions. It's much simpler than having to do like a thick border on each edge. I think I'll be doing it this way for the rest of time. The next thing we have to think about is the backrest, and it's actually been quite a few weeks since I last spoke to you, because I've been working on these because I thought, you've seen enough sewing from me now, haven't you? I thought I could just plow through these. So this was the original size I had planned. And when I brought it out here, it just didn't look quite right. It looked like more like a sleeping pillow. So I redesigned it to be this size. Oh, it's been raining a lot. And this size feels a lot more appropriately scaled for this area. So I made these cushion inserts myself. The casing is made using curtain interlining fabric, which is what you usually use to add more like thermal insulation to curtains and stuff. But I needed an acrylic breathable material for this. And I don't know, that's what I used. Let me know if there's a better option out there. These are so easy to make because they're basically half of the width of the roll of the fabric. So I just needed to cut a strip of fabric, fold it in half and sew down the seams and mostly close up that edge, but I left a little bit in the middle so I could flip it inside out, stuff it full with that polyester fiber fill, and then I just hand sewed up that little opening. For the covers, I wanted a much simpler construction than anything involving zips. So I decided to do an envelope cover. So that's where you cut a piece of fabric for your front, and then you cut two pieces of fabric for the back that will slightly overlap each other. So when you sew it up, you have an opening between those two back pieces that you can fit the insert in. But of course, I didn't do it the simplest way I possibly could, because that's not what this channel's about. I feel like everything over here is feeling kind of like stark at the moment. There's lots of like straight lines and blockiness. And I will be adding lots of like accent patterns and stuff that will soften the space up. But I thought I could do something with these cushions to give them a little bit more detail. So what I did was make an Oxford border. This is a flat kind of flap that runs all the way around. You might see it in pillowcase covers, but I thought it would just add a little something to these, and I was right. Usually the border would be sewn on totally separately, but to keep things simple, I just made an extra large envelope cover. So I made it 10 centimeters wider and deeper, and then I sewed this line 5 centimeters in, and I also sewed from the outer corner to the inner corner just to make it look a bit more realistic. And I think they came out looking pretty nice. Unfortunately, because I was originally planning that smaller size and I wasn't going to do this border detail, I did run out of fabric. I needed 7 in total to cover all of the backrest. I only managed 4, but that covers this side of the sofa, and that's good for now. And I've got more of that fabric on back order. There are so many more projects I want to do out here. I'm going to take that old rusty yellow dining table and make a beautiful hand-painted coffee table for here. I need to add a bunch more accent cushions and lights and more plants. But honestly, I am really exhausted now. So I'm going to take a breather. I want to show you what we've achieved so far in this space, and we will come back in my next video to tackle all of those finer details. And as a reward for this two-parter, if you stick around to the end of the video, I am going to do a full cost breakdown of everything I spent so far. The results will surprise you. For now though, do you remember what this space looked like at the start of this video? It was practically unusable, the walls were falling apart, and now I've made it an oasis. And there we have it, my beautiful garden. Oh, and my beautiful puppy. You want to come up here? You just want to come up here so you can eat all of the soil out of those plants? The plants aren't doing great, as you may have been able to see. I'm blaming Pippin. See? A few other things to note. That corner is still a big mess. I haven't dealt with it. But, you know, we can only do so much at once, and I decided to focus on this corner. I also eventually did paint the floor outside of the back door. And again, the weather's been weird since then, so it's gotten really mucky, and I need to do another coat of paint on it because it's not going to last too long. But, you know, for now, it's neat enough. And I also added some little blocks to the back of these units. The cushions are sliding around on them a lot, so I thought just like brace them so that they can't slide too far back. For now was a nice easy fix. One more thing before I start talking about money. This channel has a Patreon, Studio Astrid, and I would really love you to check it out if you're someone that supports people on Patreon. It is really important for small creators just getting started to have that grassroots support, and I really thank the people that are supporting me. And if you would like to help this channel thrive and keep feeding this annoying puppy, please check it out. Before we get into the actual cost breakdown, I want to talk a bit about my spending ethos for makeovers, because I said at the start of this video that I wanted it to be cheap. And I did want it to be affordable, but that doesn't literally mean spending as little as I possibly could on every single item. Doing DIY isn't as simple an equation as, you know, just buying materials, because you have to decide whether you want to put time or money or neither into something. And my ethos is generally that I want every pound I spend to feel like it was worth spending it. So yeah, for the cushions, I put a little bit more in than it would have cost to buy, and I obviously put a lot of time in, but what I'm getting out of them is so much more. So let's break this down sequentially. I started by repairing the walls, and I spent £146 on mortar, on masonry repair filler and trowels. And I did want that to be like a really speedy part of this process, but I got kind of more precious as time went along. It obviously was never going to be perfect, but I think it was worth putting in that grind to get it to be a little bit nicer. Then all the paints cost £212, so that includes these two paints. It includes the primer that went on underneath this and the special floor paint that I needed to get down there. The artificial grass cost £280 for I think 24 square meters or something like that, near the kind of lower end of the cost of artificial grass, but still like quite substantial. The furniture cost £625, so around half of that were for the chairs, which I'll link everything below, and the other half were for these IKEA bases, and I bought a cover to put all over this whole area. I spent £78 on plants, although the pots were all donated by my mum, and two of the bigger plants were, so that was just on 5 plants and a few little extra bits. These cushions in total were £550, and that includes the cushion filler and the stuff I used to make the casings for all of the accent cushions that I'm going to make. So for IKEA, it would have cost £450 for their like basic kind of thick ones. The main cost in this category was the foam that I got for the bases, which was £192. I was going to get just like hard sofa foam because the reticulated foam, the kind of waterproof foam, is a little bit more expensive. But when it came down to it, I was buying a whole sheet and it was maybe like £20 more expensive. So I decided to go with that so I don't have to worry quite as much about the rain getting on these bits. I think this fabric was around £22 a metre, and I did need quite a lot of it in the end. So expensive, but I'm still happy with those choices. So in total, so far, that is £1,894.13. Yeah, that's a lot of money for someone that doesn't have an income, really, besides making these videos. So yeah, Patreon, please check it out. Working on this garden has been a bit of a ride. I feel like I've learned a lot about myself. It's taken about 6 or 7 weeks so far, and my health has been all over the place. I'll talk about that more in the after show. But I am really happy with this space. I'm so happy that I can use it, and it's a really, really lovely place to hang out, just in time for the end of summer. Thank you so much for watching, and please return next time where you'll see this place get even more special. Bye. Okay?